Hey everyone, BioFan here. While those working on the next Dragon Age game can't really say anything other than something is indeed happening with the franchise, it's pretty obvious that the fourth Dragon Age game has been in development for some time. If you weren't already convinced, just check out the recent listings for Dragon Age specific job openings. Before we dive into everything we know about the next game so far, if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button and tap that bell next to it to stay up to date on all of the game's development. Anyway, let's go over absolutely everything we know about the next Dragon Age title so far. First off, it seems like we'll be continuing the trend of a new protagonist with every installment in the series. This is supported by this tweet from the franchise's creative director, Mike Laidlaw, and a presentation at GDC in 2016, which explained that a major goal of the Trespasser DLC was to conclusively tie off this protagonist. Shout out and thanks to my friend Tanya, aka Cypher of Tyr, for tweeting from this event. In an interview with VGS, the lead writer for the franchise, Patrick Weeks, gave a few general hints for the direction of the series moving forward after Inquisition. Weeks revealed that since Inquisition was about building an empire, the story direction of the next game would likely not repeat that. The next game will also take what worked surprisingly well in Inquisition and make those things a focus in development. Weeks also liked how you could recruit agents in Inquisition, but wants to build up a similar feature to incorporate more of a narrative tie-in than merely completing a quest and maybe seeing them walking around Skyhold from time to time. When asked about visiting Canary lands, Weeks couldn't really comment, but he did say that he'd like that to happen. So, we'll see. The lack of conversation cutscenes in Inquisition was apparently an experiment. The camera focus in on a character method was met with mixed receptions, though this seems to have been further polished in Mass Effect Andromeda, which was released after Inquisition. So we'll see what they decide to do this time around. In regard to side quests, which were one of the most negatively received aspects of the title, Laidlaw explained that relevance will be heavily looked into moving forward. In regard to a potential female Canary Companion, Weeks is very supportive of the idea, especially since it's a race-gender combo they've not yet had as a companion. Remember several years ago when former lead writer David Gator teased that he was writing another Dragon Age novel, and that it featured Fenris? Well, apparently that was scrapped prior to his departure from BioWare. Several months ago, the executive producer for the franchise, Mark Dara, tweeted out a few teases using this book, and the Twitterverse went wild thinking it had something to do with the next Dragon Age game, when later it actually was revealed to contain early Inquisition development stuff. So, probably just teasing. But I wanted to clear the air about this since we're going over everything. However, there was one image from the book that seems like something we've not seen before. Back in February, Adara put out a poll asking folks if they'd be interested in a Dragon Age tactics game like Fire Emblem or XCOM. The result was a majority yes, but Dara did clarify that this potential tactics game would be made in addition to the next Dragon Age, not instead of. Considering the entire setting of Mass Effect Andromeda was chosen due in part to a developer Twitter poll, this should be taken pretty seriously. When asked if we'd ever get the chance to see our Warden, aka Hero of Ferelden, in the flesh ever again, Laidlaw pretty much shot that down. Hard. Multiple times. If Solus were a shapeshifter, it seems as though he would indeed take the form of a wolf, cause, you know, Dread Wolf and whatnot. While Gator has left BioWare, the Dragon Age team does have a bunch of notes he left behind, so they'll have known where he wanted to take things in the future. What they end up deciding to do is totally up to them in the end, however. When asked about a remastered Dragon Age Origins, Laidlaw said he'd love to see it, but since it requires so many resources, it would be a decision for the higher-ups to make. The founder of Fail Better Games, Alexis Kennedy, has been brought on as a guest writer for the franchise. He's never commented about specifically what he's working on, probably can't until much further down the line, but many are thinking he's writing content for the next Dragon Age title. Though that tactics game is in development, so that's certainly an option as well. Dara, probably the biggest tease in the whole company at this point, went to Twitter to announce that he was having a big map printed, which immediately had folks wondering if he was referring to the map for Dragon Age 4 or an updated map for Thetis or whatnot. Not really much to go off here, but somehow I doubt it'd have to do with real-world geography. The ellipses are pretty suggestive after all. There has been discussion of publishing Hard in Hightown. Please do it. While you suffer through the endless wait for more Dragon Age, there's currently a running series of comics called The Knights Errant to hold you over. So far, the plot has involved a return to Kirkwall, Viscount Beric Tethras, and our first proper look at Starkhaven with a return of Sebastian Vale. Small spoiler, he unfortunately did not recite his famous catchphrase for us.
Maker, no!
Knight Errant was confirmed by Laidlaw to take place post-Trespasser, so at least 944, 945 Dragon, maybe later. Laidlaw also confirmed that Templars still exist in Thedas, or at least possibly, depending on choices you made in Inquisition. Soulless Mancers, brace yourselves. Grab some tissues, a bottle of alcohol, whatever you need. Ready? Okay. Patrick Weeks understands that we all wanted the Inquisitor to run off with Solus in the end, but since they wouldn't have been able to work with that plot in the next game, it wasn't made an option in Trespasser. So this at least gives you a little indication of what's to come. It's gonna be a lot of feels. I just know it. When asked if we'd ever see a co-op mode for Dragon Age, Laidlaw said it wasn't impossible, but given the story-focused nature of the franchise, it'd be difficult to do well. Anthem writer Sylvia Fekete revealed that after working on BioWare's new IP for 2 years, she's moved on to a different project, which is now back on the same floor of the studio where she worked on Inquisition. So it could be pretty likely that she's working on the next Dragon Age. In an interview on the 1099 podcast, Laidlaw addressed fans' desires to see a multiple origin sequence again, similar to Dragon Age Origins. Laidlaw said he loves the origin stories they created, but he made it seem as though it'd be unlikely for those to return as they're pretty large in scope to be replicated multiple times over, and could possibly take away from other areas of the game. While many would assume that the romances in the 4th installment of the series wouldn't revert back to Dragon Age 2's player's sexual formula and instead resemble something closer to the sexual diversity of Inquisition, this tweet from Laidlaw seems to support the continuation of something Inquisition-esque. I originally started my channel doing Inquisition coverage, so it's actually pretty nice to get back to my favorite of the BioWare franchises. But that's all for this round. Be sure to keep it here for all the news of the next Dragon Age game's development. What are you wanting to see most from the game in general? Which characters are you hoping to see return? Tell me all about it down in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And while you're down there, be sure to obliterate that like button and share this video with your friends, family, random strangers, it's all good. For instant news coverage of BioWare games, feel free to follow me over on Twitter and other forms of social media, links to which can be found down in the video description. If you like my videos and would like to help support my channel, head on over to my Patreon page to donate.